I chose for my research, does eating mushrooms affect the athletic ability to run? And the reason I did this was, growing up in the 60s, psychedelic drugs like mushrooms were more popular than they are today. And also, about 6 years ago, when I moved to Vero, I worked part-time for a couple of years at Juvenile Justice Department. And what I found interesting was I asked the lady who did the drug test what drug wouldn't show up for juveniles taking drug tests, and she said mushrooms was the only drug that wouldn't show up. So then I was thinking, why don't more professional athletes and amateur athletes use mushrooms? Well, after I did this research paper, I kind of understand why now. And so what I did was we're going to get 30 grams of mushrooms, 10 grams of mushrooms versus 30 grams of Ram flakes to each individual, which I randomly chose with a random generator from the islands. And it had three pieces of research, and mainly the main one was a journal on dietetic supplements, which they tested 28 individuals, and they separated them by weight. Their mean age was 22, and their p-value was 0.78, so they found it was not significant. And the other one was ADF drug. It was for just definitions of psychedelic mushrooms, and the National Drug Abuse Council was the other one I used. So what I did was each morning at 9 o'clock on Monday, I would run half of the individuals in a 100-meter indoor dash, and then following the next Tuesday, I'd run the other half in the 100-meter dash. And before they would run, I would give each group, they would have split equally. They would have, one group would have 10 grams, the experimental group would have 10 grams of mushroom, and a controlled group would have their 30 grams of bland flakes. And the reason I chose the 100-meter indoor was to control there's no wind value and the same temperature, so that shouldn't affect the times at all. And okay, and like I said, the p-value for the experiment was a 0.73, so it was insignificant. So my hypothesis was that given them the mushrooms, they would have a better running time, which is not true. And the other alternative was that males would do better than females on the 100-meter indoor dash, which also turned out to not be true. So, 5. So what the limitations here is, of course, it's a small sample group. That's a problem, and also there haven't been that many studies on mushrooms. For literature review, there wasn't that many, and also you could account for the weight and height of an individual, also increase your number maybe to 100. Also increase the dosage, maybe give them 20 grams instead of 10 grams of mushrooms, and also vary the time, maybe a longer. My period was 35 minutes before they ran. Maybe you can increase it to an hour, say an hour and a half, and see what that would make a difference. But I think the main thing is, well, if I think height and weight was probably going to be the major difference versus what the people were taking. Because if you're 6 foot, 300 pound versus running against a guy that's 5'8", 165, I think it's obvious who's gonna have the quicker time on your test. And there's my literature review, which said it wasn't a great deal of literature review on it, but I randomly selected from the islands, but maybe the islands guys aren't the fastest guys around, I tell you. But anyway, okay, that's my research paper. Thank you, sir.